Welcome to Everywaywoman. The face-to-face interview often seals the deal for any kind of job hunt that you're doing. And we have Reese Alexander, HR exec with the Sassy Suit to help you ace your interview and land that job. Thanks for being here, Reese.
Thank you.
Well, tell us a little bit about the face-to-face interview. Well, step one, appearance. What should you wear in an interview? I know because a lot of people, it would seem common sense, but
common sense is rare these days.
I know. I mean, what are things that you're seeing that people are showing up in interviews?
Well, you know, my advice is to always dress for the job that you want, not necessarily the job that you have. But at a minimum, you should be going to a interview appropriately dressed. Now, depending upon the industry, that could be totally different. If you're going for a regular corporate job, you want to have, you know, a nice suit on, or if it's an entry-level job, not all companies require you to come in a suit. It may just be a nice pair of dress slacks and a white shirt and tie for men, and, you know, appropriate attire for women, such as a, you know, a dress or a suit, and, you know, shirt and pant.
That's good to know because, you know, with us being in California, with the California casual and also the entertainment industry,
right.
You know, a lot of times if my husband had gone out for an interview, I'm always trying to push him in a suit, and he's like, that's not the atmosphere.
Right, it depends on the position because a lot of creative positions, if you're interviewing for MAC Cosmetics to be one of their makeup artists, I tell you, you better not walk in there in a suit. They want to see, you know, a creative attire. They want to see your personality and your flair. And don't be afraid to show your personality. You don't want to be a robot, you know. Have a sense of humor, you know, take it seriously, but show your personality because it may set you apart from the next candidate.
Well, and you know, there's been examples of people who also show up in the interview with the completely wrong outfit.
Oh, yes, yes.
I think the CEO of Pepsi said she had shown up and, you know, like just did not, she had a secondhand suit, just did not look right. But, you know, she is where she is, so
exactly.
Somehow she didn't let that get in her way.
Right, and you know, you may make missteps along the way, and that's okay, we're all human, we all do that. But one of the things is that, you know, I've had people come into my office, flip-flops and jeans, and it's like, you know what, this interview is going to be real short. You want to be appropriately attired. And in some companies, you know, they may have a casual work environment, especially in, you know, California and Florida and Hawaii, certain places. But my rule of thumb is don't dress like them until you're one of them.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because you can totally blow your opportunity. You may be doing everything right, and then you come in dressed casual like the rest of them, but you're not one of them. So still, you know, maintain that professional business attire until they say, you know, this may be the third interview. They say, you know, come in casually dressed. You know, I've been in a situation they say, you know, come in, you can be casually dressed like the rest of us. Then you take your
wait
cue.
for that go.
Exactly.
Oh, well, tell us about, a lot of times the first question you get in an interview is, tell me about yourself. But there's a catch there. You're not talking about telling them about your dogs and cats and all of that, right?
This is not your, you know, life's biography. And I'll give some advice my boss, who was my mentor, gave me. Always remember the 3 B's. And my advice from her was be brief, be bright, and be gone.
Oh, there you go. Now, you know, going back to the appearance, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, there's so many people now getting, you know, piercings and tattoos and things like that. What if, you know, that was once okay and now you're going into a culture where that's not? How do you address that with the employer?
Well, you know, like, again, certain jobs, it's okay to have tattoos, but if you're going to a more conservative employer, you know, there's lots of makeup up there that they make, Cover FX and lots of other brands that you can use now, you know, cosmetically cover up tattoos and so forth. So you don't want to rule yourself out of the game because you have an excessive amount of tattoos, especially if you know that the company's very conservative. And if you know that, you know, maybe you may not want to consider them as a potential employer.
Okay, because they might have their lines of,
right,
well, there's,
exactly.
What about, you know, just standing out? Because there's so many, you know, just standard questions. How do you make sure that you stand out?
Well, I think you want to be genuine. You want to be authentic because, you know, that fake it till you make it, that's okay sometimes, but certain times you can't fake it. You know, you want to be authentic, and I think in your interview you want to be very authentic because, you know, your decision whether or not you'll be hired or not depends upon, you know, how genuine you come across to the recruiter or hiring manager.
Okay. Well, I have so many more questions to ask you, but for more information, I guess they'll just have to go to your website.
Exactly.
And you'll have to come back.
My pleasure.
Thanks so much for that. For more information, you can check out Reese's website at reesealexander.net.